Ready, okay? So hello everyone. Thank you so much for our leaders here present to be part of Evolution of Leadership. Thanks for your support. This also helps us a lot and also the speakers to provide the value that we can give every Thursday event. So the thing that we want to do is give this value to everyone so we can support each other. And also, if you guys want to develop, have certain motivational and see how other people made a transition into leadership, this is the best way that we can do it. So before we start, my name is Richard O'Valley. I'm speaker of Evolution of Leadership, and I'm so happy to be here. So first, let's keep in mind that our speaker is will give, as I said, his perspective of leadership in base of his transition. So let's keep our mics on, off as much as we can. Let's keep our cameras on as much as we can so we can engage to each other. Also, it is a little respectful for our speaker. Our event will last 1 hour. That is going to be 7 to 8. That includes the 30 minutes of Q&A session in which you guys are more than welcome to engage with us, ask any question or doubt that you guys have. So remember that a leader will have the path of zero fear. So don't be afraid to ask any type of question, any type of doubt, because that will help you, that will develop you. If you have any question or something that maybe you couldn't find, our speaker experience might help you a lot. So for tonight, we have an international motivation speaker. He's also a trainer leadership. He's a passionate about helping others unite people in a harmony way. Moreover, he helped them to jump to action. He moved them to the action. Also, he's a non-commissioner officer of the United States Army. And with the deployment of Iraq and Kuwait with the first Gulf War. So I'm so happy and excited to introduce Mr. Steve Donofrio. Donofrio, thank you so much to be here with us. We fully appreciate it.
Thank you. It's exciting to be here. I see people popping into the room as we go, and looking forward to filling this room up here in a few minutes, and we're going to kick it off, Richard. And
it will be amazing.
I'd love to know, as people are coming in, I'd love to see in the chat, where's everybody from? That would be great to get to know people. If you guys don't mind just dumping like a, hey, I'm here, and where are you located? Are you in California? I'm in Minneapolis, Minnesota myself.
Yeah, for example, for me, I'm in Los Angeles, and I believe that some of our viewers are coming from the same city. But I also have a small spoiler to say it, that we will have some viewers that are international. So hopefully they will have the beautiful chance to jump in right now and have the honor to meet you and engage with all of us.
Cool. I'm looking forward to meeting everybody. What time do we want to officially start? Are we going to wait for the room to fill up, or how's this going to work?
The way that you feel comfortable. If you want to start with your transition, that will be amazing, but that will be great.
Yeah, I'd like to take a little bit of time, and I've got a question as as we wait for people to come in a little bit from different places. Okay. A question for you guys is, what do you think the biggest problem leaders face today is? What do you think the biggest problem leaders face today is? Just write that in the chat box. What do you feel a leader's biggest problem? What are the problems leaders face today? What is the biggest one? Lack of resources.
True.
Jacqueline's got.
Maybe I would like to say some fears. Oh, I can write it down. But I would say some fears. On my personal experience, as my path of leader, I've been facing some fears that that it's completely normal. That's why I'm part of Evolution of Leadership, so I can help others to remove those fears. That that type of fears that stop you to do some stuff or give you that negative thought that okay, you're not prepared or you're not capable for this.
I like it. Communication, accountability, a limiting mentality. These are great. Around the world, leaders of all levels face challenges. And Richard, I love how you said fears, because every single person, regardless of their age, their background, their experience, has some type of insecurity and fear. And you are 100% right. The inability to think for self. I love that one.
Yeah, yeah. And for the question, I fully invite all our leaders here present to join us to engage.
Yeah, I appreciate everyone getting engaged, and we're going to allow people to pop in. I heard there's about 20 people registered, so we'll give them the opportunity to jump in, and then we'll kick this off.
Of course, of course.
One of the things that, another question for you all is this. If you had the ability right now and the resources to change one thing in our world, what would you change? What would be the number one problem you could fix or solve? Or what's the thing you'd like to see changed? Where do you want to make an impact? You personally, assuming you had the resources to do it right now, what is the one thing you would want to change?
That's a good one. Mm, mine's,
Mindset, creating a culture of understanding.
those are good ones.
Angel, you're going to like today a lot.
That's my community.
Helping my community. Jacqueline, how would you like to help in your community? Anything specific, any one problem you'd like to fix in your community? You can either type in the chat or feel free to unmute yourself and just jump in and speak before we get started.
Well, for one, my community is it's a low income community. So one thing I have seen an impact, well, because I was a student here and everything for the schools around here, I would help mainly mainly the educational system and have more resources because our books and specifically I'm a tutor and TA for middle school, so I see that our books are outdated. There's not enough K-12 resources, so I would like to help those students have more resources available to them.
I like that. Mental freedom, breaking limiting beliefs. We just got, so most of us here, I know there's not a lot coming around from, at least we don't have anybody internationally yet. We just got through an election year. It seems there's always a lot of division around election time. And it's almost a sad thing in a country who says that we are the United States. And I'll kind of get ready to begin as we go. And I'm going to tell you just a little bit of a story about how, what you're going to hear today is something called the rule of harmony, RULE. If you are in a place where you could write or take notes, you might want to. It's an acronym, RULE. We're going to be discussing that a little bit today. But I want to tell you a story. It was mentioned, Richard mentioned in the introduction. I thank you for that kind introduction, sir. That I was in the first Gulf War, that I'm aging and dating myself now. So I'm an old guy. But I was part of the liberation of Kuwait. I was in Iraq and Kuwait, Saudi Arabia time. And one of our, as the ground war is a very fast ground war, we invaded, we liberated Kuwait, we cut off the Republican Guard, we did our job. One of the missions that my unit had was it wasn't actually a pleasant mission, but it was an important mission. And that was, we were to go back through the battlefield and make sure there were no unexploded mines, ordnances, making sure that there were no booby traps. If children were to come out and play in these areas, there wouldn't be something that would explode or harm them. And all well as there was no prisoners of war, nobody hiding, and nobody had escaped, and now it was kind of hiding in old rubble. And so one day particularly, I was walking through this battlefield and we were going through stuff, checking it like normal. And I don't, if you've ever seen soldiers, and I came from an era where military was, it was cool. It was, you felt powerful. So as I walked through the desert, I had all my equipment on. I was carrying my machine gun, and I just felt so powerful. And I had this sense of pride and power as I walked through the desert at this moment. And I came across an old destroyed armored fighting vehicle, and something in the dirt that was kind of shiny caught my attention. I generally don't recommend picking up shiny stuff in the military because those are great booby traps. But this was just a piece of paper. It was just a glossy piece of paper that caught my attention. And as I reached down to pick it up, and I looked at it, and what it was a picture of an Iraqi soldier, what I'm assuming was his wife and children. I don't know if this person survived. Maybe they gave up and they just blew the thing up afterwards. I kind of hope that's the case. Part of me doesn't believe so. I think this was destroyed and these people were killed. But as I looked at that piece of paper, 4 words ran through my mind, 4 words ran through my heart that I've heard many times before. I've read them, I've heard them, and I've never deeply thought of them until that very, very moment. But you see, all of a sudden, all my feelings of pride, all my feelings of power changed, and it shifted to sadness and shame. And those 4 words that ran through my mind were this: blessed be the peacemaker. And I began to contemplate what that meant. I began to think of what peacemakers do. And it began to change my perspective, because I thought to myself, yes, I support the military. I was in the military and I support liberating people who are unfair treated, but I also support the concept. And at that very moment, I thought, what causes wars among us? What causes hate and division? And I began a journey to find out why we're so divided. I spent 15 years living in Japan. I have worked with people from over 30 different countries. And I've come to a conclusion over all this time. The human race is far more similar than we are different. Yes, we have different experiences. Yes, we have different cultures. Yes, we have different languages. We have different thinking processes. We have a lot of things that are different, but at our very core, at our very essence, I could promise you, the things that make you smile will most likely make anyone in the world smile. The things that bring you pain and suffering most likely will bring anyone in the world pain and suffering. The things that make me laugh have made other people laugh. I have enjoyed smiling with children in different parts of the world, and I have enjoyed the enjoyment of sitting around a table and eating a meal and sharing similar conversation with people from many different countries. And I'm noticing over and over again, we are so much more alike. Why do we stay polarized? Why do we stay divided? And that's what the rule of harmony is all about. And over the next few minutes, I'm going to share with you a few simple principles that you can begin to apply right away as leaders in your community to start bringing people together. And once you bring them together, you go from influence to action. And now you can begin making the changes you so want to see made changed. I have a question for you. If we're going to overcome something, if we are going to move forward, would you say that, we need to take some responsibility, right? So that's R. R is for responsibility. I'd like you to finish this section. If you just take a guess, if you want, if we want to overcome, if we want to do something, the first thing we must do is admit we have and finish that sentence. What's the last word? What is that? Admit there is a what? I must admit there is a to move forward. Write your answer in the chat box. What do you think that word should be? I'm going to take responsibility. I'm going to admit I have a what is the word I'm looking for? Do you know? Alexis says problem. Yes, I must admit there is a problem. Anybody else want to throw in a thought? I must admit there is a problem, Alexis says. Anybody else want to add to that? There is no wrong answer. I'm just curious how you said it. Richard says solution, consequence. All of these are wonderful. Thank you. Richard is one I like, because if I really want to change life, R for responsibility means taking responsibility, admitting there is a solution to every problem we face. There is a solution to every problem that we have. And when it comes to uniting people and getting along with people, we have to take that responsibility on ourselves. We have to say, hey, look, it is up to me to fix it. We have to stop blaming situations. We have to stop blaming people. We have to stop blaming circumstance. We have to stop blaming the economy, stop blaming our upbringing, stop blaming the government. We must stop pointing fingers. See, whenever you blame or point fingers, you give away your power. It becomes hopeless. Oh, I can't do anything. See, I can't do a thing because it's really not my fault. I can't do anything about it. It's not up to me. It's their fault. Now, I know in this room, we are all really cool people and we are all good. And some of you are thinking, you know who this is perfect for? No, that's not taking responsibility. That's pushing responsibility off, guys. But I realize that all of us here, we're not really the problem. It's those guys over there. 98% of the problems in the world are from other people. I get it. We're in the 2% good group. But what I would like you to do is, and challenge you to do this, what 2% can we own? What 2% do you own? When it comes to disharmony, when it comes to division, when it comes to not getting along with people who look, think, and believe different than you, what are you doing as a solution? Here's what something you can do. Ignoring problems will never help you. We call it toxic positivity. Running around and saying, yay, rainbows, unicorns, life is good, always be positive. Sometimes always being positive is actually a negative thing. It doesn't solve any problems. And actually, sometimes it can be hurtful. Let's say a friend was the victim of an assault. You have two choices at this point. You can come alongside of them and support them and say, man, I am so sorry this happened to you. I'm so sorry you were victimized. If I'm here for you, anything I can do to support you, let me know. Or you can say, hey, don't worry, it could have been worse. Just be positive. How do you think your friend's going to feel? See, over positivity doesn't help anything. So there's nothing wrong with recognizing or identifying all the roadblocks, all of the problems. But what you do at that point is the whole concept of taking responsibility and admitting there's a solution. What you're going to do is this. What you do is you identify the problems, right? And then you simply write a sentence. And the sentence is, there is a solution to, and you just identify the problem. See, when you begin to say there is a solution to and identify the problem, you begin to take back the power. You begin to get control. Now you can be creative and you can go, wait a minute, there's a solution to that. I just have to figure it out. That's your first step. Personal responsibility is saying, what can I do? Jim Rohn, one of the famous speakers, says, nothing will change until you do. Nothing will change until you do. It's your way to do this. Now, how do we do this? Where do we begin? So if we understand that R is taking personal responsibility and saying that there's a solution to every problem we face, and that solution begins with me. If we can go with that simple premise, then the next step to do that is this. You is about understanding self and others in deeper, more meaningful ways. I want you to understand yourself and others in deeper, more meaningful ways. What is your mindset? We've heard the word mindset from a few times today in our chat. What is your mindset? In the book, Mindsets, the new psychology of success, the author writes that there's a growth or fixed mindset. A fixed mindset basically says people can't change. A growth mindset says people are able to change regardless, and everyone has the opportunity. So we want to think about our own mindset. How do you view problems? How do you view other people? How do you look at people who are different than you? How often do you have conversations with people who are different than you? I want you to understand the word harmony. Harmony comes from the Greek word harmonia. It actually means to bring into agreement. That's all it really means. We hear a lot in music. Harmony is nothing more than something that says bringing into agreement. Now, when we bring things into agreement, we don't change them, nor are we asking them to change. This might sound a little shocking to you guys, but one of the things that makes me a little sad is when we strive. Oops, I got muted. Sorry. When we strive to be tolerant, this came out way back The word tolerance came back out early in the 90s, guys. Again, I'm dating myself. I've hated it ever since. Understanding others has nothing to do with being tolerant. In fact, I don't like the word tolerant. And I think if you strive to be tolerant of other people, you are aiming the bar really low. Let's pretend Emmanuel and I become friends. And 6, 8 months into our friendship, I'm like, Emmanuel, dude, I'm so glad I know you. I have really learned to tolerate you. How is he going to feel about me? Emmanuel's going to be, man, Steve, that really touches my heart. He's going to be like, dude, seriously, after our friendship, you come up and you tell me you tolerate me. That's the best you can come up with. We don't want to tolerate one another. We want to celebrate one another. Don't aim for tolerance. That's a low bar. You want to understand yourself and how you view the world. Look deep into yourself. Have the courage to look in the mirror and ask yourself about your paradigms. What is it that shapes your belief? How's your humility? Do you always have to be right, or is it okay for someone to disagree with you? Are you open and accepting of other people's beliefs? Do you talk about tolerance, but then do you practice it if you like the word? Do you accept others who are different than you? How often have you sat down with someone who is different than you to learn? Understanding others in more deeper and meaningful ways begins with you becoming an amazing listener. Here's my challenge to you. We're sitting in a very diverse room right here, and that's awesome because you probably don't have a problem with this, but here's the idea and the concept. I have a habit, and I keep it up. Now with COVID, I can't do it as much except for Zoom, but here's my habit I've developed a long time ago. Every week, my goal was to meet somebody who looked, thought, and believed different than me and invited them to a cup of coffee or a meal, to sit down for the purpose of learning something from that human being. What can I learn from them? What can I learn about them and from them? And how do I become comfortable with them? Science says that it is the fear often comes from not being familiar. Familiarity trumps fear. If you are not used to being with people who look, think, and believe different than you, then those people will always you will always fear them at your core. Not because they're somehow inherently evil, simply because you don't understand them. You're not familiar with them. So take time to spend time with people who look, think, and believe different. In my community, I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota area. It's a suburb. And there was a new store that opened in a local shopping mall. And I believe it's it's an African store, international clothing. And I was walking, it was brand new, and I was walking past one day and I saw this really cool shirt from Kenya. And I'm like, wow, this thing's really neat. I'm going to go buy it. I think it's for men. I wasn't sure, because in the front of this store was all these Somali women with hijabs on, and like 9 of them standing in the front crossing the store. And my first thought was, how do I like get through the middle of this group without being rude or pushy or obnoxious? So I stood there like looking kind of dumb, because here's this old white guy standing out in front of this African store, staring in, wondering what to do, looking confused. Luckily for me, a lady came out and she said this. She goes, excuse me, would you like a tour of my store? And I was so happy. So she guided me in and gave me a tour. Her name is Fatima. And Fatima and I began to talk and to chat, and I got to know her. So I invited her to the food court one day. I said, Fatima, if you're open, would you come? Do you mind coming and have a cup of coffee with me in the food court? I'd love to hear your story of your business and you as a human being. So we did that, and I got the opportunity. And I looked at Fatima one day and I said, Fatima, as we were sitting there, and I asked her a hard question. I said, Fatima, what's your biggest fear? What is it? What do you fear, Fatima? Now, have you ever been in a conversation when you asked a question and all of a sudden it kind of got that weird, creepy silence, and you're like, oops, might have overstepped my boundaries. Oh man, what do I do? And you've all been there, right? So you have a choice. Do you back off and like go around it and hope it didn't destroy the moment, or do you step on the gas and see what happens? Well, I decided I'm just going to step on the gas. So I said it again. No, seriously, Fatima, what's your biggest fear? And she took a breath and she looked at me and she goes, Steve, do you really want to know? And I said, yes, ma'am, if that's okay, and you don't mind sharing with me, I would love to know your biggest fear. So she took a deeper breath. She looked at me, paused. You are my biggest fear. And I was like, ow. I said, what do you mean, Fatima? I said, you just met me. How can I be your biggest fear? She goes, no, not you. White men over 40. And I was like, how? I said, Fatima, I'm a white guy over 40. And she's laughed and goes, good, then you're my biggest fear. And I said, what do you mean? She goes, remember the day you stood outside my store? I thought you were going to tell me, close my store, go back to my country. You don't belong here. And you wouldn't have been the first. And it broke my heart. But it got worse after that moment. She goes, Steve, look around. It's like, this was pre-COVID. Look around, Steve. This is a crowded shopping mall and no one's sitting next to you or I. A white guy and a woman in a hijab. The tables next to us are empty in a crowded shopping mall. She goes, why do you think that's an accident? And at the time, I didn't know. And so I began to kind of watch people as we spoke and chatted. And a couple came closer to us, an older couple. And there was someone standing away and they moved. And as soon as this person moved, they realized Fatima and I were at the table together. And a woman tapped this person, I'm assuming was her husband, on the shoulder and pointed at us, specifically Fatima. And she shook her head in disgust and they walked away. It broke my heart. See, they didn't understand anything. People like this aren't evil people. They're people who lack understanding. So the most important thing you as a leader can do is get to understand others in more deeper, meaningful ways. Spend some time with people who are different than you, politically different than you, religiously different than you, everything different than you, and get to understand them by listening to them and celebrating something in common and not blaming them. Remember, taking responsibility. There's a solution to every problem. You as understanding self and others in deeper ways. Now, L, R-U, now we're at L. L is to lead by action and example, regardless of your title or position. See, you can lead by action and example, regardless of who you are. You don't need a certain title to be a leader. You don't need a certain anything. Leaders are leaders not because of their title or position, but because of their influence. A leader's role is not to tell people what to do. A leader's role is to influence people in such a way they want to do things. Leaders influence, regardless of title or position. You don't need to be a leader to lead by example. You need to learn the skill of followership to be a great leader, because sometimes you have to need to follow. Great leaders will inspire people to work and then allow them to take the credit for it. A great leader will say, hey, you guys did a great job. One of the old famous football coaches used to say, look, if we win, if we win, that one's on you. If we tie, that's on us. If we lose, that's on me. Leaders accomplish things through others and then give them the credit for doing it. That's true leadership. Influencing others by your actions and examples. Exciting them to get things done. It's not getting them to like what you like. It's appreciating who they are. It's learning their values and their vision, and then tying their values and their vision into your own, and showing them that by doing these things together, you're actually going to meet your own purpose. Then they get excited. Then they get to work. Leaders influence others. They don't tell them what to do. They influence them and they move them and then they inspire them to action. So if you want to bring people together, you must lead by action and example. You must be the one going out there to people who look, think, and believe different, starting those conversations. You must be the one who says, you know what, inclusion's important to me, so I'm going to get inclusive. I'm going to go out there and include as many different people as I can in my circles, in my world. You're going to have to walk to them, because I promise you they're not coming to you. Unfortunately, we continue to self-segregate in our world. It drives me crazy to watch all the self-segregation. We run into our little subgroups and then we complain that we're not united. But yet we never allow other people to come into our group, because we kind of make these, think about a circle of people holding hands, arm in arm, locked in arm in solidarity. What those circles have in common is everyone's facing one another, saying, yay, we support one another, and they're looking at each other. But to the rest of the world, what do you see? This. Could you imagine if I gave my talk with my back turned to you? How would you feel? So maybe you take your circle of people, instead of holding arm in arm facing into one another, you flip that circle. You have each other's backs, but you point to the rest of the world and say, you are welcome into our group. You are welcome. We want to understand you. We want to know you. We want you to feel invited and safe coming into our group. We have to stop self-segregating. And we do it by gender. We do it by age. Oh, I see a lot of ladies here. I'm about to say something really scary. All right, ladies, forgive the old guy. I am tired of women's only events. We segregate half the communities. How is inclusion? Can you say I love inclusion and then include 50% of the population? With a bunch of young people. So again, forgive me again. I've been to young professionals groups that say, hey, we're gonna have a discussion on inclusion today. And I'm saying, that's great, I'd love to come. Oh, how old are you? This is a group for 20 to 30-year-olds, young professionals. And you're gonna talk about inclusion, really? And you're gonna exclude anyone over the age of 30? Why are we having a discussion on inclusion? Maybe you should re-identify your words. What's my point? Now, is it wrong to have these groups? No, it really isn't. But if we so self-segregate and we polarize and we put ourselves in these tiny little groups, we'll never understand others because we're never with them. So we lead by accident out. And finally, we must get and stay engaged. E is about engagement. You have to get engaged with other people. You have to get engaged. To get engaged is what it means. You must get engaged. Unity and harmony is easy to do. Just follow the rule. Take responsibility. Admit there's a solution to every problem. Follow the rule. Understand yourself and others in deeper, more meaningful ways. Follow the rule. Lead by action and example. Follow the rule. Get and stay engaged. That is the essence of the rule of harmony. And now we are ready to transition. Richard, I turn it over to you.
I'll actually be transitioning, Steve. Thank you very much. I appreciate the direct honesty that comes into it. It's actually very true. It's a perspective that we don't really talk about. It's like, all right, let's include everybody. It's like, all right, well, it's like, wait, how are you going into that? So thank you for that. So soon we're going to transition into our Q&A. Right before we do so, I just wanted to announce that we are very excited to be branching off to the CSUDH campus as a company. So right now we are actually looking for people who are interested in joining us via clubs and orgs on the campus. So if you are interested in, and of course you will have to be, a student from CSUDH. But yes, if you want anything, if you want a position, if you want to be a member, please contact us, anybody from our team, or just contact the EOL page directly. And now we will transition to Q&A. So yeah, don't everybody come at once. You could put your go for it.
Yeah, how's it going? I just want to thank Steve. Thank you for that value presentation. And it's at least personally, it's also just it's a reminder, but also like an invitation, I would say, because it's like I feel like sometimes we know, and just tend to do, and sometimes but yeah, it just I like how you mentioned that sometimes we gotta do, like, we don't have like the position of a leader, but we're like, even though we're not in that position, we're in a position where we could lead others, or could influence others. So I just like I just like how you said that. It made me got me thinking, because at least personally is and I always I just I could see myself like that, because I do have like I'm a Latino, and I do the I have friends who have like different backgrounds than me. But recently I just been having some struggles recently, just viewing black people in general. Like, because I know that at least when I see it, it's like there's also in my mindset, because I've met like a different range of Black people, but I also heard I also heard stories about Black people. But when I see them, I just think of like, okay, I don't know how their attitude could be towards, and I know that at least from the continental slave trade, I know that there's some issues with that, and so I don't know how is their feelings towards I guess people who are not Black. So that's something that brings on my mind. Like you said, I think just the way to get rid of that is just being open and I guess just communicating. And yeah, I just wanted to put that out. Appreciate that.
I love that. I love Joseph. Thank you for that. I like how you got that takeaway back about maybe thinking about now going out and then connecting with people who aren't Latino like you and who are maybe Black. I would maybe go to, I'd even say, look at going to a more African-American based church and just walking in and saying hi. They'll love you. And then hang out with them, go have dinner and just spend some time in these churches. They're open, or communities, or, youth programs or anything like that. Go be a volunteer there and you'll learn a bunch of neat stuff. Thank you for your takeaways. Anybody else, questions, comments?
Thank you. I appreciate
So sometimes when people speak and you're like, it's kind of a smaller, quiet room, you're, as a speaker, you're like, man, there's two things happening. One is I sucked at this because I confused everybody and they don't even know what kind of questions to ask. Now, the second thing is, man, I am so good that I have clearly nailed it because they know everything. They don't have any questions. Either way, I usually choose number two. It just makes my ego feel a little bit better. But here's the thing. I'm always prepared for groups with no questions. I have 3 questions for you. And you can just go, it's a small room, so we get to go around the room. I'm going to ask Alexis to pick and choose if he wants people to actually answer out loud or if he's going to let them write in the chat. Here's my first question. What is one thing you learned today? What is one thing you learned today? I'll type it in there. What is one thing you learned today? And I want an answer. What is something you learned today? There it is. Alexis, you can either pick people or.
Perfect. So yeah, I do encourage you guys to, like always, we always encourage you guys to, let's get our answers, responses in. A leader goes first. Remember, there's power in going first. You know. So yeah. If anybody would like to share, let's see here, VD. VD, would you like to unmute and share your response? I've learned. Mike doesn't.
I can go ahead.
Awesome. Let's see.
Oh. All right. So one thing that I learned today, Steve, was I love that you talked about getting to know people from different cultures, different beliefs, different. I've already had that. I've learned that throughout my life, but I feel like just I haven't really focused on it like you focused on it, and that's just something that I think is very different about intentionally learning people, meeting people and learning their perspectives, because sometimes we don't understand the why people act a certain way or why they believe certain things. Whether it is because I have had an instance where I was in Torrance and there was a racist old white man towards me out in Torrance, but at the same time, I don't know what perspective he has about Latinos, right? I don't know why he had that mentality about it. So yeah, it's very interesting even to sit down and have conversations with different people that do have different beliefs. So thank you so much, Steve, for sharing that. And I believe I believe Jacqueline had a question too, and I also believe that Giselle said she'd like to go next.
Jacqueline, you want me to read your question? Yeah, she said that how can we begin conversation and becoming more understanding, such as in a work environment?
Great question. Step one is to start building those relationships slowly. Find something of the, don't dive right into like, what's your religion? What are your politics? That will end immediately. Start finding a simple thing of commonality, something you both like. Maybe it's tea, maybe it's coffee. Now I know there are some boundaries we never want to break. And I get that. We all have those, like, this is, if you're this, there's absolutely no way we're going to connect. If you put pineapple on pizza, you're just wrong. And so there's a hard time to connect with people who would do something so heinous as putting fruit on pizza. But you all have those things. But so start with something simple. Look for a fun way to connect. Maybe that the coworker has a cup of coffee, buy them a cup of coffee, invite them for a cup of coffee. Find out the smallest, simplest thing about them and celebrate that with them in a positive way. Let them teach you something. If there's someone from a different culture, ask them something about a language, about that. Would you teach me the word for this? Let them teach you one or two things every week and let them talk about themselves. That will be the most effective way to start building that trust, when you allow them to teach you stuff and share who they are with you before you share with them. I hope that answers the question. That's what I would do. Let them teach you something or look for something interesting and connect. I hope you know, I realize I'm joking about the pizza pineapple thing. That was just made to be a joke. I actually got yelled at. Someone actually like sent me like a chat going like, how dare you like say bad things about pineapple on pizza? And I was like, wow, I have to be more sensitive. All right, Sel, I think you're up.
The next one is Giselle. Giselle, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to answer Steve's question. For me, I actually learned three things that like really stood out to me was the inclusion. That for me really stood out because it was something that I knew, but I never really put too much thought into it. So of course, like if we want something to change, it should be something where everybody should know, not just like the whole women. Don't worry, I did not feel attacked by that, personally attacked at all. Because you were right. Honestly, you were right. Us women, we're always like, oh, we want more rights, we want this, we want that. But usually when we get into groups, it's usually just women. It's just for women. But we should include men in it too as well, because like that they know, they are aware that this is what we're going through, that these are the problems and why is it, also kind of including to the whole getting to know somebody, it's not only about the different race, but also the different sex, because we struggle things that men don't do, that they don't struggle and they don't know it until like at the very end, it's like, oh, okay, I realize now that, you women have gone through a lot. Oh, I'm so sorry, So that's one thing that really stood out to me. And you're definitely right. So thank you for, shining a light on that situation.
Thank you. And you're right. I mean, it goes both directions, right? I mean, women's equality, women's issues, and women's rights are a real thing, but a bunch of women telling each other about it doesn't help me understand it better and doesn't help me make better choices. Racism, xenophobia, gender inequality are not specific problems to one race or gender or group. They're human race problems. So the human race together needs to solve them. Anybody else? What did you guys learn today? Throw out some, what did you learn today? And I'm going to write my next question as I get more answers.
Jacqueline would like to go next. Jackie, if you could unmute, you are free to speak.
Yeah, one thing that stood out to me was when you talk about when taking back that power, about like there is a solution too. And I face that every day with some of my students. Like every day is a new challenge, every day is a new obstacle and boundary for my students, and especially starting in distance learning is like, okay, how can I improve this area for them to learn better? What area can I improve for them to understand that I'm also struggling, like from behind a computer screen? Like, how can I include that in inclusivity, not only within like a teacher, let's say a teacher and student relationship, but also like an individual basis. So like when you said you take that back power, I feel it, because every day is a new challenge, and you know, this it's how it is.
Thank you. I love that you're able to take back some power and you'll be more creative going forward. Anybody else on what you learned? I know we have time constraints, so if you want to either throw in what you learned, you can, or if you want to jump into the next question. Next question I have for you guys is this: what is one action you will do based on what you learned? Don't leave this without taking an action step, or you just wasted an hour of your life. If you don't, oh, think about that, but I'm going to ask this question and feel free to put this in the chat box. This is just agree. You can either put a yes in the chat box or do the old thumbs up thing like this. I'm going to make a statement. If you agree, you can either write agree in the chat box or you can give me a thumbs up with the reactions. Knowledge is power. Agree or disagree? Give me a thumbs up or looks like we're hitting an almost an anonymous agreement. That's awesome. I guess we found something we all disagree on. Oh my goodness. Angel, you are my favorite human being. Angel wins my award. Angel, I want you to put that in the group chat to everyone. Angel and I are the people who don't agree that knowledge is power. So write your statement in the group chat, Angel. Applied knowledge is power. You're like kinship, because nobody ever realizes that only applied knowledge is power. Having knowledge is one thing. Applying the knowledge you have is something very different. Thank you. You're like my hero. I finally met someone who thinks the same way I do. The only thing that would make this a relationship fall apart, Angel, if I learned you put pineapple on pizza, that would destroy everything. But for now, you and I are just like this. And that's the point, guys. It doesn't matter what you know if you're not going to do anything with it. So what are you going to do? What is one thing you will do leaving this meeting today? What is one thing you will do? What's something you will apply from today?
I guess for me personally, let's see. Well, actually, yeah, for me personally, I think I'll also be a little bit more open to talking and discussing things that I'm genuinely, I guess, create a curiosity for differences. So by doing that, I'd have conversations about what the other perspectives are. Yeah, I would do that just to see what the other viewpoint is. Let's see. Let's see in the chat.
I like that one. Recognize that we're more alike than different. That's true.
Okay. So Angel says meeting people with different cultures and beliefs. VD says I will leave today with the lesson to listen to those who oppose on what is said, uh, done, or with who I am. Jackie says, beginning the conversation with my coworkers and becoming more understandable. Awesome. Does anybody want to go further into it? when it comes to that.
Yeah, in addition to all of that, also have the initiative. My leaders, as Angel said, are after this base, we should apply the knowledge, the difference in the society, because it is people that they don't have that the type of knowledge that we have. It is people that is not aware as we are. So let's have that initiative so we can share that we can, how can I say it, no give that vibe, they can see that. And in as you guys said, in order to become a leader, we will have some people that are going to follow us. So the moment that we have that initiative, we have that change, we show that it is people, our followers, that are the youth, maybe, or maybe other ones, they will see that, so they will start creating that as well.
Jacqueline, I like what you just wrote. Reaching out to my social platform, even though I may not be that of influence to the world, but I can begin with small reach I have. One of the things leaders must do is differentiate and discern between information and knowledge. We get a lot of information, not all of it's knowledge. Be careful. Not just to take in information, but to filter out what is true knowledge and this just information, because it's very different. We live in the information age. It's information overload. That doesn't mean we're any smarter, because not all of it's knowledge. And then to take knowledge and turn that into what knowledge and how do I use it and apply wisdom. So be careful and separate knowledge from just plain information. I'm going to close my piece with a story and let you guys chat more. I'm going to hang out with you, but I want to go off what Jacqueline just wrote. And I want to tell you a story, if that's okay. I'd like to leave you with this story, if you don't mind. It's a story about an older gentleman and his friends who used to walk along the beach. And you guys are out in California, you know what beaches are like. I'm in Minnesota, we don't have any. But it's a story about a man who used to walk on the beach with his friends, and he would do it on a regular basis. And one particular morning, he went a little bit extra early to wait for his friends. As he sat there, he noticed this little kid running around the beach, throwing stuff into the ocean. But it wasn't just normal. This kid was like passionately crazy. And he would like run and pick something up and like stare at it and almost talk to it and then throw it as far as he could. And then he'd look around and he'd run and find something else. And this man got so enthralled, he looked at the boy and he thought to himself, what is this kid doing? I got to figure. So he walked up to the boy, he looked at the young man and he said, listen, he says, young man, I've got to ask, what are you doing? And the little boy, with such excitement in his eyes, picked up a starfish and he goes, sir, I'm saving starfish. And he threw it into the ocean. And the old man just kind of looked at him and said, you're wasting your time, kid. There's no way you can save them all. You see, there are hundreds of starfish on this beach, young man. And there are hundreds and hundreds of miles of coastline. You're not going to make a difference. The little boy, a little bit dejected, now sad, picked up a starfish, said, don't come back. And he threw it as far as he could. And he said, see, sir, I saved one. The man just shook his head. Yeah. As the man would begin to walk away, the boy said this, sir, do you want to save a starfish? The man said, what, me? And he goes, yeah, it's easy. He says, you pick it up, you tell it something encouraging, and you throw it into the ocean for a second chance. Now the man realized he had made the boy feel dejected, so he humored the boy and he picked up a starfish. He was about to throw it. But he said, wait, you got to tell it not to come back. And so he said, okay, don't come back. And he threw it. And a smile came across his face. And the boy said, see, doesn't that feel good? The man said, yeah, it did. And he picked up another one. Now along came the man's friends and thought, what are you doing? What are you doing? And he says, oh, the boy and I are saving starfish. Grab one. And the men picked up starfish. And it wasn't before long that the entire beach was full of people saving starfish. What's my point? One person cannot make a difference. Don't let anyone fool you. You can't. One person cannot. One leader who can influence others to action can change the world. It's not about doing something by yourself. It's about influencing those around you, no matter how small the group is, to get started. That influence will grow. One person can't make a difference. One leader who can influence others can. All you have to do is follow the rule. It's been an honor to hang out with you guys. I'm still going to hang out with questions and stuff, but I'm going to stop talking. I just want to let you know how much of an honor it's been for me to be allowed to be with you guys today. I've really appreciated it.
Thank you so much. We fully
Thank you,
appreciate
Dan.
it. And I have a question for you. So this is about leadership. What is for your experience, what was the time, well, your worst scenario, or maybe not the worst, but what was the moment in which you determined that maybe you need to change some activities or behavior on you to become a leader? Because what you were doing was not like enough in order to lead your life. And as you said, to show some others, like to let you follow you in a positive aspect.
That's a great question. And my definition of leadership changed during my time in the Army in basic training. And it was when I learned what I call my most valuable leadership lesson at the time. In basic training, I don't know if anybody of you have been in the military or have a military. If you do, thank you for your service. But the basic training, you go 16, 18 weeks, whatever it is now. And then when you're going through basic training, they choose people to be leaders, and they make you a squad leader, a platoon sergeant, or platoon leader, or something. You get an opportunity to become a leader. And I was a little bit older because I went in when I was 23. But I thought I need to work my butt off because I want that opportunity. I want to be a squad leader. I want to be a platoon leader. I want them to choose me to be a leader. And I worked and I worked and I supported people around me and I helped them when they needed it. And I thought, if I just really work hard, serve others, follow the orders given to me, and do my very best, help when I can, then I'm certainly going to get the opportunity to be a leader. And I had done that. In fact, I did some really stupid stuff too, because people asked me to. And I was like, I had to actually, one of the guys who I helped him all week. He struggled, but I supported him all week so he wouldn't fail out of being in his role of leader. I helped him and supported him, did whatever he wanted me to do. And the very last day, it was like almost midnight. It's raining and it's cold in Fort Benning, Georgia. And he says these words, the drill sergeant said, we need someone to go to the dumpster and guard it for 2 hours so raccoons don't get in it. And my first thought was, there's no way this guy's going to make me go outside in the cold rain to guard a dumpster from a raccoon, because I've done everything for him. I kid you not. He's like, hey, Donofrio, it's my last name, Donofrio, you get the duty. Dumpster guard from raccoons. And my first thought was, dude, you've got to be, but I was just, yes, Sergeant, got it. You got it. And I went out and did it. At the end of basic training, we are given opportunity to sit with our drill sergeant to ask questions. And it's open question now because it's over. And I said, drill sergeant, I worked so hard, but you never once picked me as a leader. Why? And he laughed at me. And I was hurt. I was mad. I mean, you're laughing at, dude, you're laughing at me. I said, this is not funny. This is a serious question. And he goes, no, what's funny is you don't even know what a leader is. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, you don't need a position. He goes, people ask you stuff. People came to you. You did everything. You are a leader. You just didn't see it. And that's where the idea of leading you lead regardless of title or position. It comes right back to that L, right? That was the lesson I've learned. It's influencing others by being there to help them, support them, and serve them. Dr. Martin Luther King actually said it this way: anyone can lead because anyone can serve. That was one of my greatest leadership lessons, is my drill sergeant laughed in my face and said, you don't become a leader, you are a leader by the choices you make.
Really amazing. Thank you so much, for real. We fully appreciate it. And also, I just want to add that I really appreciate you. I really appreciate our leaders that are here. And I hope that we're bringing this valuable knowledge to everyone and to every single community, because that's our main goal. Thank you, Mr. Steve. And
It's a
would you
pleasure.
like to add anything else?
No, just if you guys, you can, Emmanuel, Richard, and Alexis, I believe we're connected on LinkedIn. Anyone who needs my information, I am always available. So this is not, I believe leadership and service goes beyond just hanging out here. So they have my information. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, then you may. What inspired me to be a motivational speaker? How did I get to where I am at that international motivational speaker level? That, man, I'm look at 10 o'clock at night. If you allow me to hang out, you want me, am I allowed to hang out some more and answer my question?
Well, unfortunately, for the respect of everyone, it's already 8. Go, Alexis.
Yeah, they could what do you call it? The event is closed. But if you would like, I'll still stay on if you just make me